My father has been my biggest bully for 29 years. Tonight he tried to punch me, and I finally realized he's just a sad, weak old man. I'm a 29-year-old guy. I'm fit. I run ultra-marathons and I'm sober. My whole life has felt like walking on eggshells around my father. He fights with everyone, his brother, his friends, his coworkers. He has physically abused me in the past, hitting me when I was a kid. But it's not just the aggression. It's the neglect. In 29 years, we have never had a single one-on-one father-son conversation. Not once. Whenever I try to speak to him, even about everyday things, he shuts me down, refusing to make eye contact. Because of this, I stopped seeing him as a father long ago. To me, he's just a stranger I live with. Tonight, the power went out because the cats tripped over a wire. It was an accident. My father, who is very sick and physically weak, went into a rage. He started screaming at my sister and me, demanding we go out at midnight to buy an extension cord. I tried to de-escalate, telling him to calm down, but he got in my face and then tried to punch me. In the past, I would have cowered, but tonight, something switched. I didn't punch him back, but I pushed him away to protect myself. Because he is weak, he fell down. I expected to feel horror or guilt. Instead, I felt nothing. Actually, I felt good. I realized I wasn't scared of him anymore. I looked at him on the floor and asked, "It's been so long since you've been like this. What kind of father are you?" He looked at me and simply said, "So what?" He told me to leave his house. My mom and sister urged me to go, just to let things cool down. I walked out but eventually came back in, to sleep, because I have nowhere else to go. He is hiding in his room now, silent. I think he realized that the physical intimidation he used for 29 years has finally expired. He knows I could hurt him if I wanted to, and he knows I saw him fall. The monster in my head is gone. He's just a bitter landlord now.
The man baby is finally facing the music. My brother is 31 years old, and in all that time, he hasn't had to lift a finger to meet any of his needs. He dropped out of college after less than half a semester because he couldn't manage to get out of bed before noon. He's worked a total of 2.5 months in his entire life. He lost his first job at a fast food restaurant for yelling at a customer, and the second one for stealing from the register. For the last 8 years, he's rolled out of bed at 2 p.m., doing nothing but playing video games and searching for others just as lost as he is. He's an annoying, self-centered person who would throw our parents under the bus for a fleeting thrill. My parents have always tried their best. They gave us everything we needed, and then some. For my 2 siblings and me, their support led to success in school, good jobs, and a solid start to adulthood. I wish I could commend them for their efforts, but they've allowed my brother to remain in a childish state for far too long. Now, they're left with an overgrown toddler who spends his days in the attic, playing games, and cursing at my mom when she asks him to clean up his mess. Last year, Dad had a stroke. He now requires 24-hour care, and Mom is completely burnt out. She retired to take care of him, and it's put a strain on their relationship that years of marriage couldn't have prepared them for. Meanwhile, my brother demands dinner while shouting at teenagers online. My siblings and I have been discussing solutions for months. At the beginning of the month, we decided Dad would go to a care center. Mom plans to sell the house and move to a community nearby. And we hope my brother will find a place with an internet connection. My parents have always protected him, but the stroke finally opened their eyes to the reality of the situation. It's painful to admit, but we're all tired of him. None of us care what happens to him anymore. And it's striking to say that out loud. Yesterday, I was there when he got the news. Mom will be living with my sister until the house sells, and Dad is going to the care center next week. The eviction process has already begun. His reaction was something to behold. He stomped his feet and screamed that it wasn't fair. He threatened to sue us and even yelled at an elderly man, demanding to know how we would help him find a place to live. He still doesn't grasp the reality he's facing. Now he's not speaking to our parents, locked away in his room, only coming out to grab food from the pantry. My brother is staying there to keep an eye on him and update us on his tantrums. I'm looking forward to the next month. It feels like the best reality show I've seen in a long time. As a quick update, he hasn't gotten violent, thankfully, but he's made life difficult for everyone. He claims to have found a place to live and says he'll be out by the end of the month.
I subconsciously lost my Australian accent by doing too many impersonations when I was a kid and a teen. I was born in Australia, just like my parents. My dad has a voice that reminds everyone of Steve Irwin. Growing up in rural Australia, I was surrounded by the typical accents of my community. But I became obsessed with American TV. It was all I watched, and eventually I started mimicking the accents for fun. At primary school, my impersonations were a hit. Everyone loved it, and I got a lot of attention. I could do Texas accents, Boston accents, California Valley Girl accents, and even New Yorker accents. In the early 2000s, in rural Australia, this was a big deal. I entertained my classmates by switching up my voice. When I reached high school, I got involved in musicals. My school viewed my accents as a gift, which led to me landing lead roles in productions. Now, at 26, people constantly ask me, why do you talk like that? I've developed a full-blown Northern American accent, mixed with random Southern and Aussie twangs. It feels like a curse. Recently, I started a new job, and my colleagues debated whether I was from Canada or America. I've never even set foot in either country. They joked about placing bets, and didn't believe me when I insisted I'm a full Aussie. Even my parents pointed out. I often notice people laughing when I switch between 3 accents in a single sentence without realizing it. I truly don't notice. Certain words come out sounding very Californian, while others slip into a Southern drawl. Looking back at old videotapes from when I was 5, I sounded just like my parents, typical bogan Aussie. Now, I'm just a strange fusion of accents. It feels like a curse, though maybe a funny one. It's always a conversation starter, which has its perks. I was diagnosed with autism at 12, and my therapist thinks my accent changes might be connected to that. I practiced American accents so much as a child that it altered my real accent as an adult. Now, I have this blend of Texan, Californian, and Aussie that feels so far from who I used to be.
I came back to my village and got beaten up for not getting married by 25. I'm a 25-year-old woman from a rural mountain village, but I grew up far away from it. While everyone my age has settled down and started families, I pursued an education, becoming the only female graduate in my village. I built a career in a respected field, earned my own money, and embraced a comfortable single life. Marriage was never my dream, and while my parents weren't thrilled, they eventually accepted my choice. About 2 weeks ago, I returned to the village, hoping to contribute to its growth, after learning about ethical social entrepreneurship abroad. I wanted to make a difference, even though I hadn't lived there for more than 6 months in total. But as soon as I arrived, all anyone wanted to talk about was my marital status. A few days ago, a relative visited and asked the usual question. I calmly replied, I don't plan to. She then began commenting on my body, even pulling my jacket off in the chilly mountain air to check if I was pregnant. When she saw my flat stomach, she suggested that someone like me would simply get rid of it anyway. I felt uncomfortable, but it only got worse. Later I overheard her laughing with others, calling me a leftover, and saying that no one would want me because I was unmarried. That evening, she returned and insisted on discussing my marriage again. I told her it was my life choice, and she shouldn't worry about me dying alone. Suddenly, she accused me of being disrespectful and ungrateful. I asked her what I had to be grateful for, given that she hadn't even offered me a glass of water. That set her off. She shouted at me, calling me names, and then she physically attacked me. I was punched, kicked, and spat on. She even tried to hit me with a heavy iron stove before I could react. In shock and anger, I warned her that I would call the police if she touched me again. She began screaming and crying, claiming I threatened her life. It was surreal. She kept changing her story while hitting the ground. And thankfully, there were witnesses. If I hadn't been there, I might have believed her performance myself. Afterward, I went to a neighbor's house, but she continued shouting and cursing me, repeating her insults. I later discovered that she had been spreading rumors about me for years, claiming I was immoral and had inappropriate relationships, that I thought I was better than everyone else and was just waiting to marry rich. None of it was true, but it had already started to affect how people treated me. Now, I want to leave this place. I don't feel like I belong here anymore. Yet, another part of me feels like I would be fleeing without having done anything wrong. I've faced academic pressure, work stress, and the challenges of living abroad. But this experience has shaken me in a way I never expected. All of this, just because I'm 25 and unmarried.
If a woman says she doesn't want kids or tries to avoid that conversation, the best answer is for you to just listen and not debate it. I'm so tired of this. I'm tired of people asking me if and when I will have kids. I really don't want to have kids. Why is that so hard to understand? I'm exhausted by the same old responses. You're still young. You'll change your mind. I used to feel the same way, but now I'm happy with kids. Or your partner will get tired of you without kids. Well, that's not fair. If I regret it, that's my issue, not yours. If my partner gets tired of me, again, that's my problem. How hard is it to grasp that some women don't dream of becoming mothers? Some of us feel complete without children. Please stop pretending you know my wishes and dreams better than I do. I think it's perfectly okay for a woman to want to be a mother, just as it is for her not to want that. If a woman says, I don't want kids, or hints that motherhood isn't for her, just listen. Some women don't want kids, and some can't have them. Either way, it's not your business to open that conversation.
I lied to get revenge on a rude passenger, and when I walk around, I still think about it. I have a little secret I've never shared with anyone. It might sound silly or even amusing, but it weighs heavily on my conscience. I travel frequently, sometimes for work, sometimes for leisure. I fly so often that I occasionally recognize the same flight attendants. They probably don't remember me, but that's not what matters. One day, while waiting to board, I noticed a middle-aged woman aggressively pushing her way through the queue, insisting she was first. Picture this: fake blonde hair, designer bags, chin held high, shoving people aside without a word of apology. It wasn't the first time I'd seen such entitlement, but what really struck me was when she used her foot to nudge a child out of her way, treating him like an object. That moment stuck with me. Fast forward to boarding the plane. Guess who was sitting in the window seat I had specifically paid for? I didn't want to create a scene, but I calmly informed the flight attendant that she was in my seat, and the woman was being difficult. Before the attendant could respond, the woman erupted, accusing me of lying and shouting that she was there first. I just stood there, letting her dig her own grave. She escalated, insulting the flight attendant and making threats. In the end, she was escorted off the plane, and people actually clapped. But here's the truth. I lied. I never interacted with her. I just wanted a small, petty bit of revenge for how she treated that child. Now, I can't stop thinking about it. I know everyone has bad days. Maybe she was going through something tough, but because of me she missed her flight, and I know she had to wait 2 whole days for the next one. I don't want sympathy or validation. I just needed to share this. Maybe now, when I walk around thinking about it, I'll feel a little lighter.
My dead husband's mistress is pregnant, and I kinda hope it's his. My husband was killed by a drunk driver in October 2025. He was my best friend and my entire world since I was 15. I've never truly lived a life without him. We had been separated for 5 months, but even then, we did everything together except for a few things and living under the same roof. Just weeks before his death, we were back together and everything seemed to be looking up when I got the call. In November, I received a message on Facebook from a woman claiming she was pregnant with my husband's child. I didn't know how to respond, but we eventually met. She told me they had a one-night encounter. If she's telling the truth and the baby is his, it means we weren't separated at that time. For some reason, I find myself hoping it is his. I know this sounds insane, but we had separated because he was going through a midlife crisis after I had given up on trying to have a baby. We had spent 18 years trying, and after 4 rounds of fertility treatments and a heartbreaking miscarriage, I couldn't endure another round. He wanted to try one more time, but I was exhausted. Our fights led us to take some time apart. Now I can't help but think that if this baby is his, at least one of his dreams could come true. There could be a little version of him out there, changing the world just as we had always dreamed. He may be gone, but his legacy could still move forward. I met with an attorney recently, and my husband's estate is secure. Under the circumstances, the baby isn't entitled to anything, but I wouldn't feel right not setting up a college fund and trust, along with some family heirlooms. I know many people might disagree with my decision, given how this situation came about. It's a difficult situation for me, but an innocent child shouldn't suffer because of the mistakes made by adults. I have more than enough money, including funds from my husband's trust, that we never used. If the baby is his, I will ensure a trust fund and college fund are set up, and I'll find a way for them to receive my husband's family heirlooms. I don't want to be involved in this child's life. I wrote this while deep in grief, and I think that grief influenced my thoughts. When my husband died, I lost everything. He was my only family and my best friend. I grew up in foster care, and my biological mother passed away long before I could meet her. There was no father on any of my paperwork. I have nobody, and my mental health has been in a terrible state, so I hope for some understanding. I wrote this thinking maybe someone else has gone through something similar, and I appreciate all the comments, both good and bad. I don't believe the baby is my husband's, nor do I think he cheated. The woman claimed they met at a bar in Colorado on a specific date, and went back to his hotel room. She even named the bar and the dates he was there for his yearly ski trip. It seemed convincing, until I realized that his social media had that information publicly available. I asked his friends about the trip, and they were confused, because he didn't stay at the bar long, and left with one of them. They made me cry, recounting how much he talked about me, and how deeply he loved me. I don't think he would have cheated. He despised infidelity. But I know that sometimes people can surprise you. I'm still going ahead with the DNA test on my attorney's advice. It's just to protect myself in case she tries to pursue anything in court. That's all for now. I see a therapist soon, and I hope she can help me through this. The baby is due any day now, so I'll update if I learn anything more.
I accidentally found out what my dad really did for me when I was a kid. I'm 24 now, and last week I went back to my hometown to help my parents pack up their house for a move. In the garage, I stumbled upon a dusty box with my name on it. Inside were old notebooks, silly drawings, school papers, and one envelope that caught my attention. At first, I didn't think much of it, but when I opened it, I found a letter from my old elementary school. It said I could be removed because tuition hadn't been paid for almost a year. That hit me hard. Growing up, I never felt like we were struggling. My dad worked as a mechanic, and my mom took on various jobs. I always thought everything was good enough. Behind that letter was a note from my dad to the school. Please give me some time. I sold my car this week. I'll bring money in parts if I have to. Just don't make her feel different from other kids. I had no idea he sold his car. I remember being annoyed when he started walking to work each day. Other dads drove their kids, and I thought he was just being stubborn. But now, I see it differently. I sat on the garage floor for a few minutes, just staring at that paper. Later, I asked him about it. He laughed and said, yeah, that car wasn't great anyway, and then changed the subject. It's wild how parents shield you from the weight of their struggles. I'm still thinking about it. I didn't expect my last post to get so much attention. I just wanted to share something small that stayed with me. Thank you to everyone who left such kind comments. I read many of them more than once. Some people asked what happened after, so I figured I'd add a little update. I brought up the letter again with my dad. Nothing dramatic happened. He laughed and said the car was terrible anyway, then quickly changed the subject. That's just how he is. He never liked discussing sacrifices or being seen as someone who struggled. What I didn't mention before is that because I was able to stay in school, things turned out pretty well for me. I got my education, I have a job I genuinely like, and I'm doing okay now. Better than okay, honestly. I've been saving money for a while, and I'm almost at the point where I can afford to buy a car. I don't think I'll explain why. I'll probably just say I found a good deal. That feels right somehow. It's strange to realize how much your parents hide from you to spare you from feeling their burdens. I thought I understood that when I was younger, but I don't think I really did until now. Thanks again for reading and for being so kind. I didn't expect any of this.
I'm secretly relieved my sister is dead. I'm a middle-aged man, and my sister passed away a few years ago due to alcoholism. She was cherished by our family, admired for her intelligence and kindness. She seemed to be a good mother, and I genuinely mourn for her children. Yet I can't shake the relief I feel about her death. When I was a child, she violated my trust in a way that still haunts me. She took my innocence, claiming it was practice for the boys at school. I can't recall every detail, because I've buried those memories. But I remember her holding me down, silencing my cries. She used that moment to manipulate me for years, forcing me into actions that siblings should never share. She taunted me with hurtful words, threatening to twist the truth if I ever dared to speak out. Eventually, I found the courage to confront her. I told her it had to stop. And when she threatened me again, I challenged her to tell anyone. I felt I had nothing left to lose. To my surprise, she backed down, never mentioning it again. In my youth, I often contemplated ending my own pain. Thankfully, I sought help and have moved beyond those dark thoughts. Yet even as an adult, she continued to exert control over me, monitoring my every move and gaslighting me about our shared trauma. She was always the favorite, the golden child. After her death, I finally began to heal. But the scars remain, a part of my innocence lost forever. I can't share my truth with my family. They still see her as the perfect sister. What if they don't believe me? What if they say, why bring this up now when she can't defend herself? The only reason I feel safe sharing this now is because she's no longer here to hurt me. I carry her secret with me, bound to remember her as the person they believe she was, rather than the person she truly was.
Awareness to all parents and older siblings and family members. I never thought this would happen to my own sibling. Earlier, I was about to hand back their iPad when I noticed the Roblox chat still open. Out of curiosity, I opened it and read the messages. I could hardly believe what I saw. There are only 2 of us siblings, and since I started college, I haven't been able to keep a close watch on them. I thought they were just becoming more mature, that it was simply a generational difference in how kids communicate now. But it turns out it was because of this game. When I opened the chat, I saw my sibling talking to someone who was clearly not a child. The avatar looked innocent enough, but the questions were alarming. They were inappropriate and disturbing. This person was asking about my sibling's sensitive body parts and how they felt about them. They even suggested certain actions, and my sibling responded. It was absolutely heartbreaking. I can't even share the rest of their conversation. It was too painful to read. I don't know how long this had been going on, but the thought that my sibling may have been approached by someone like this for a while is terrifying. It sends chills down my spine. Please, if you have a child or younger sibling who plays Roblox, do not leave them alone in the game without supervision. Check their chat, friends list, and who they are talking to. There are many people out there who target children because of their innocence. Being cautious is not being overdramatic. It's better to be overprotective than to regret it for the rest of your life. For now, my sibling is grounded from using the iPad, and our parents have bought them a new phone with monitored apps and time limits. Knowing how some women work makes me less of a feminist, apparently. About 7 months ago, my husband sat me down and revealed that he was in love with a woman from work. He wanted to be honest and not cheat, so he asked for a separation. His words came as a relief after weeks of him being cold and distant. I had been walking on eggshells around him, and when he confessed his feelings, it felt like a weight lifted. I simply said, "That is fine." His confusion was evident, as he expected me to care more. I explained how I felt free to stomp on the eggshells now. He stayed with me for 2 more weeks, and it was awkward. I could see him excited like a child, while I mostly hid in my bedroom. When he moved out, I didn't see him for a month. He texted occasionally, but I never answered. As I filed for divorce, we began to see each other more, planning to sell the apartment and moving our things around. About a month ago, we started renovating the apartment. While painting the bedroom, I noticed he was distant again. I asked what was wrong, and he admitted things hadn't gone as he expected with her. He told me she wasn't as passionate as he had hoped. I reminded him that she knew she was involved with a married man. He became upset, insisting he never cheated and had ended our relationship first. I pointed out that perhaps the thrill was gone for her now that they were together. After a long pause, he admitted he missed me. I asked if he was going to make this awkward, suggesting we work on different schedules. He apologized, saying he didn't mean to offend me, but he missed me constantly. I told him it offended me because I don't flirt with unavailable people. He dismissed my comparison as ridiculous, and I just shrugged. Then yesterday, he texted me, admitting I was right. When he told his colleague he was back with me, she became affectionate again. I didn't respond, feeling a mix of laughter and sorrow at the absurdity of it all. An hour later, he showed up at my door, smoking cigarettes. I joined him, breaking my 15 years of being smoke-free. He said, "I don't know what I was thinking. I love you. You know that?" I replied no, which was the truth. He looked shocked, insisting I knew he loved me. I said no again, and he shook his head in disbelief. After he left, he texted that he was ending things with her. I replied that it was ridiculous to end a marriage over this. He called me 3 times, but I didn't answer. When I shared this with my friends, they were surprised at how judgmental I was toward the other woman. One even called me a pick-me. I was taken aback, as I've always considered myself a feminist. I didn't argue because I lacked the energy, but their words made me reflect. I had felt like a victim for months, but now I wondered if I wasn't. It made me feel strangely less angry, as if I was on equal footing with my husband and his colleague.